Okay, why don't we get started? Okay, so it helps if I turn the screen on for everyone. What we're going to start with is talking about your next assignment. So what we're going to be doing is an assignment about social media, talking about social media, etc. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to be working in groups of up to 4, where you're going to be required to research and analyze a company and a company or brand's use of social media. So it's going to be required as 5 to 7 double-spaced pages, 12-point Times New Roman font, 1-inch margins, and references. So it's going to be a formalized assignment where, like I say, groups of 1 to 4. So you're going to produce that for me. It's going to be a polished business report. So this means that you're going to be required to proofread it, to make it so that it's properly formatted and professional. Basically, what you want to do is make it so that if you're handing it into a potential client, what's it going to look like? That's the type of thing you're going to have to start thinking like, especially if you're getting into the business world. So you're going to have to talk about the utilizing the social media for the following purposes: raising awareness, influencing desire, encouraging trial and facilitating purchase, and creating loyalty. So these are some of the things that you're going to have to talk about in the assignment. It should be up on Blackboard. If it's not there yet, it will be by noon. I typically make everything available at noon. You're going to also want to analyze their usage of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and any other platforms. Any questions so far? So when I was taking this course way back in the day, what I did, and I've done it, so I know what I'm looking for. I did Old Spice. I talked about Old Spice and how they utilize the social media platforms, how they engage in their consumers, etc. So that's the type of thing. And if you think about some of the assignments that you've done, that you're probably, or not the assignments that you've done, but their conversations in class even, you're going to get some hints on some of the really good ones. And unfortunately, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making a list. So it's first come, first serve. So if you've got a business out there that you've got an interest in, send me an email and I'll put your name down on the list. Okay, and then you'll reserve that. I also want to know what your group names, like the members of your group are. If it's just you, let me know. If there's 4 students, let me know. So is there any questions? Yes, Nick.
Is it a requirement to be in a group?
No, that's why I said 1 to 4.
Okay.
So you can be a group unto yourself. All right. So any other questions?
Deadline?
Deadlines? Okay, so this is due, and I don't think hold on, by Wednesday, November 7th at 9 a.m. So there you go, 9 a.m. Wednesday, November 7th.
So this is different than the thing that's due on the 31st?
Yes, okay. That's phase 2 of your assignment. November 7th is the social media assignment. Okay. All right? So one of the things that you want to do is be factual. Don't be going, well, I think this is happening. I think this, or I really like this. Be factual. And again, I'm going to draw back to my personal experience. Actually, for this assignment, I believe no, you know what? I changed it. I didn't do Old Spice. I did the Blue Jays, the Toronto Blue Jays charity. And I analyzed the usage of their brand. I analyzed the usage of how the charity interacts with people, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, etc. So be factual. Talk about, when you're talking about the organization that you're doing, talk about their followers. How many followers do they have? How frequently do they engage with their followers? What are the consumers saying? Those are facts. What they're really not, there's really no place for is I thinks. It's this organization has 15,000 followers. They do this, 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 and this. Yeah.
So is there a reflection part?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
I'm going to go through it. I don't believe I put one in there because, again, a good writer can influence the facts through their perception.
Okay.
So, you know, what you could do is if you wanted to put a personal reflection in, that's fine. But what you can do is say, this organization has 15,000 followers, which could be attributed to their awesome use of their brand and their consistent perception. And you know what I'm saying? So you can kind of interject it, but you've got to make sure that you're doing it, you're basing it on fact.
Yeah.
All right. So the goal is to assess where the client, so there's no room for personal feelings or emotional response. So the one thing you don't want to do is go, I hate this. This is awful. This is just an ugly website or whatever. You've got to be factual. So think of the report as a type of report created by a social media consultancy firm, you guys, and before the first meeting of a client. So basically, whatever organization you pick, send me the email with your group names and just say, okay, so you are now preparing for your first meeting with this organization. They've contacted you as an organization saying, we need your opinion on our social media practices. All right, the report should include the following sections. And I would recommend following these things very closely because they're marks directly attributed to each section. Introduction, 20 marks. Introduce the company and what they do and why social media is important to their business. Look at their industry they operated within, as well as the norms, standards for social media use in that industry. Be succinct. No use of fillers. So don't use flowery language. Don't use fluff. You're writing a business report. Bosses or clients don't want to read fluff. Overall summary of the social media use and purpose is worth 80 marks. All right. Briefly summarize the company's history with social media and current use of social media, along with the strategic focus from one or several of the above purposes. Can you identify who manages the social media for businesses? Is it the marketing department, outside social media, advertising firm, etc.? Are they using different social media platforms in ways that are unique or duplicative of themselves? Are they simply pushing out the same message? Okay, so it's one thing to be creative in social media, but it's another thing to be very creative. One, if you've got creative and you just take it and you put it in a Twitter and you go, oh, I really like that, and it's got some great following, I'm just going to put it out on my Facebook, and then I'm going to put it out on LinkedIn. You've got to change your message around a little bit, and obviously target your audience. And then you can talk about that as well. Do they target their audience that's viewing these social media posts? How they're leveraging each tool for the best effect. Also, you're going to want to produce a chart that presents the number of followers. Frequency of posts is a good start for this section, but you must also analyze their efforts overall. That's 20 points right there. Use of each social media platform, and you need 6 of them. So when you're selecting an organization, be sure that that organization has 6 different social media platforms. Assessment and recommendations. So here's, Nick, this is kind of where you can start interjecting some of your personal reflections is through the assessment and recommendation section. Okay. So you can say, this is really good because of this, but don't just say, and when I'm designing a website, one of the things that I tell my business partner is when they look at it, they can't just say, I don't like it. If you don't like it, that's fine. But why? Yeah. Why don't you like it? So for example, one of the things that I noticed with the Toronto Blue Jays charity, when I was doing a similar report, was I noticed that their brand was all over the place. They never used the same image. They never used the same header pictures. So you really didn't know where you were. You didn't know if it was connected. You didn't know if the message was the same. Like say for example, when they were tweeting, they were saying, well, yeah, you know what, we have this going on this day, and then on their Facebooks, for example, they've got something completely different on that day. So you don't know any consistency of messages. So you got to talk about that. Consider a social media SWOT analysis. You guys have all taken Intro to Marketing, and the SWOT analysis is not something that's should be foreign to you at this point, right? Okay. So you may want to do a social media SWOT analysis, which is 1 to 2 pages. That's worth 20 marks. So, and then here's the added bonus for all of you guys out there who are really excited. On the final page, you get to do a presentation on November 7th. So, wow the audience. That's worth 20% or 20 marks. That is, so it's worth 10% of your final course mark. So this is the presentation is worth 2% overall.
3% in class?
In class, in front of everybody. Unless, of course, you're truly, truly terrified of presenting in front of an audience, then I've got alternative solutions for you. And I don't know if I mentioned this. I was terrified at one point of presenting. I hated the idea of standing in front of an audience and talking about information. And so what I did was I did video. So the presentation is going to be 10 minutes in length only. You've got 10 minutes. I'll cut you off at 10 minutes. So keep that in mind. And now going back to my video, what I would do is if the instructor said it's going to be a 10-minute presentation, you can bet that my video came in anywhere between 9:55 and 9:59. It was a great way of controlling your time. So be creative, have some fun with it. Like the presentation is where you guys can really just truly enjoy it and do what you want to do with it, as long as it's within reason. Okay, and as long as it's within college policy. Last thing I have to say that because October 17th is coming up. Anyhow, okay, so any questions about the assignment? 10% of your final mark is at stake.
So it's a written report.
There's a written and a presentation.
PowerPoint or whatever you want to do. Yes.
Is this assignment on Blackboard?
I'm looking at it now, I believe. So yes, it is on Blackboard under assignments. Okay, so to reiterate, find an organization that has at least 6 different platforms. If it doesn't have 6, send me an email and say, I really would like to do this one for this reason. But you should be focusing on at least 6. Send me the organization, and that will lock you down for it, and no one else can take it. But send me the list of names of those that are in your group. Okay? Yeah.
How many group members?
1 to 4. Okay? Any questions? Have I explained this thoroughly to you and you guys are walking away with a thorough understanding of what's expected?
Do you want APA reports style?
Okay. Here's my take on APA. I've been working many, many years in the business world. I'm also consider myself a lifelong learner. So I understand APA. I have never used APA officially in the business world. So what I'm going to suggest is that your references must be APA and cite your sources within the body of the paragraph. So for example, if you found an article that I've written, you've got it in the back of the in the citations or references page, and then you do an inline reference, you can just do this. And that's perfectly acceptable because then you're telling me, okay, this is where I found this information. Okay? The written report will, of course, be accompanied by an academic integrity sheet. Okay? No academic integrity sheet, no mark. Okay? Any other questions? Here's your chance. Here's your opportunity. I'm opening the floor. Okay. This one's actually a lot of fun, this assignment. I think that you guys will enjoy this one because it's all about social media. Okay. So that being said, November 7th. So now I stress to you guys, this is where your time management skills are going to start kicking in because the course is back-end loaded with a lot of your marks. If you look at how many marks you've got, we're in week 6. You can see that it's going to start ramping up. So October 31st is part 2 of your major assignment, which is worth 15% of your final. Then November 7th is this assignment, which is worth 10. That's 25% of your final mark in 2 weeks. And this is October 10th, of course. So it being October 10th, you've got a few weeks to work on this. Don't put it off. I cannot stress this enough to you. Try to get it done as quick as possible. I would recommend, here is how I would handle this, and you guys handle it however you want. Once you've got your group, have a quick meeting. Go over the instructions. If there's any questions at all, either email me, because there's a few of you know that I respond to emails quickly, and Stacy can attest to it, right? I'm pretty quick with emails. So send me an email. I'll answer. No problem. If you have a question, that's what I'm here for. All right? That's how I would handle it. And then once you've got all the things you understand fully about the assignment, then you can start working on it. Okay? All right. So a complete guide to the best times to post on social media and more. Okay. So believe it or not, there's actually peak periods and best possible times. And you've got to think now more like a strategist when I'm starting to present this stuff to you than as a social media marketer. Okay, so for example, on Twitter, most brands tweet during the work week. Peak is on Thursday, 17.4% of all tweets are posted, and there's a significant drop in Twitter posts over the weekend. Now, the times that the majority of tweets are posted are during the week from 9 a.m. to 6. So this makes sense because most of the tweets are happening during the week, during the business hours. Makes sense, right? Nick?
What time zone is this for?
It would be their local time zone.
Okay.
So if it's a California company, it would be Pacific Standard. All right. So the peak number of posts are between 12 and 1. And most tweets receive the most retweets on Sundays. Now these are significant stats that you'll probably almost guaranteed see at some point in the not too distant future. And I think you guys understand that when I say that, chances are it's going to be on a test. Okay, and most of the tweets get retweeted at night. Okay, so between 10 and 11. So as a marketer, knowing that most business tweets go out between like Monday to Friday between 9 a.m. and 6, and most tweets get retweeted between 10 and 11. What would be a good strategy as a marketer? Nick?
To do you post for B2C through the nighttime?
B2C during the night or in the evening. How do we do that though? Like, do we pay somebody to work overnight? Hootsuite. Okay. Vanessa?
A delayed post
Delayed post?
on a time.
Okay, so similar to Hootsuite or whatnot.
Does Twitter and Facebook have that feature though?
I feel like
Facebook has, but I don't know.
Twitter, I always use Hootsuite or TweetDeck. So those are the two that I use. So I don't use the scheduling per se. I don't think they do. But if you use a third party, they will.
Okay.
And the third party is just basically an API that will link your Twitter account to your account through the third party, and then you can schedule it, and they would just log into your account and send out the tweet.
Okay.
So excellent feedback. That yes, absolutely. Logically now, what I want to do now Nick had mentioned B2C as a strategy would be to send out my tweets during the time that they're most retweeted. But why when they're most retweeted? Why not 7 o'clock at night? Like, you know, people will get to it eventually. Why not? Why during the time that they're most retweeted, which is 10 to 11?
More exposure.
More exposure? Okay. Now, if you think about your own Twitter accounts, does everyone have a Twitter account? Yeah, Nick does. Everyone? Okay, some of you do. Okay, cool. Now, is it an active Twitter account, or is this one that you've just set up for this course? Because I just set you guys up. Anyone that said, no, you don't have a Twitter account, I thought that was homework a couple of weeks ago. But man.
It's active, but I mainly use it just
At it.
yeah.
Now, if you think about it, if I'm sending out a tweet or somebody sends you a tweet, How fast does that get buried if you've got a very active Twitter account?
Very.
It's gone in a second. So if you're sending out, say your strategy is, well, okay, you know what? I'm going to send this out at around 7:30 at night. Chances are when people are logging into Twitter and doing the retweets at 10 to 11, they're not going to find you anymore. So it's kind of a wasted tweet. Yeah.
Also, I feel that people like follow like hundreds or even thousands of people without even like caring or something.
Well, actually, that's a very good point. When Twitter first came out, that was my strategy. I just followed everybody and asked everyone to follow me. And I thought, wow, look at this. Look at our network go. So I've got, say, 15,000 Twitter followers. Is that a good network? 15,000, man, I send out a tweet. I've got to be reaching somebody. Is that a good strategy or is it a bad strategy? Because you guys are all going to start developing your Twitter networks. Nessa?
Well, it really depends, because most of those people will probably unfollow you in this, like on Facebook. You can still be friends with people, yet not see what they post.
Okay. So 15,000, you're just right on the fence today. It depends. It's sometimes good, sometimes bad. Okay, that's fair.
Those 1,500 people may not be your target audience.
Okay, so now these 15,000 aren't your target or may not be your target audience. So actually, going back to my personal experience where I went, okay, you know what? If you have a pulse, you're going to be in my network. What ended up happening was we lost total trackability of our Twitter account. I was just so focused on the overall size that I didn't know if people were reading, no people weren't engaging. I didn't know if it was what I was saying. I didn't know if it was my audience. I didn't know any of these things. I would rather see a network of, say, 300 people, good quality customers, good quality potential customers, employees, because employees are also very good because your employees are your best salespeople. If an employee is happy with where they're working, they're going to tell everybody. And not only that, but they probably have a Twitter network as well. So if you send out a tweet and they repost it, all of a sudden now your post is going across their network. So I would recommend about anywhere between 200 to 300 good quality people on your Twitter account. LinkedIn, same idea. I have probably about 2,000 people on my LinkedIn account. Again, I don't know 2,000 people. I followed a very foolish pattern when it first came out. I wanted everybody. Then I went into a different strategy. I just wanted the prestigious people. So I now have all, and for those of you who don't follow the NHL, you won't know these names, but it's an older NHL. So I have Bernie Perrons, I have Shane Corsons. I have all of these NHL players on my, or old NHL players on my LinkedIn account. Are they going to help me at all? Probably not. So if I send them a LinkedIn message, say, hey, you know what, Bernie Perron, he was a goalie for the Philadelphia Flyers back in the 70s. He was one of the best goalies in the world at that point. I can't see him saying, oh, you know what, Keith, tell you what I'm going to do to help you. I'm going to pass you over to a friend. The purpose of LinkedIn is utilizing the network to communicate with different prospective employers, organizations, partners. So I've kind of rethought everything and I'm shrinking it down now so that the people that are on my LinkedIn are the ones that are more significant. Students, instructors, people that can assist in like organizations within the community, et cetera. Community and et cetera. All right. So do we understand about the B2C strategy? Yeah? Speak now or forever, well, or ask later, I guess. Okay, so B2B. So you said, you were very specific, Nick, when you said B2C.
Yeah.
What about B2B? How would we handle that one?
Didn't you say that was like in the daytime?
Well, okay, now all tweets are happening.
Okay.
Like all business tweets. Well, not all, but like the stats show that the frequency of tweets are happening Monday to Friday during working hours. So we've got the B2C, and that makes perfect sense. What about B2B? Would you change the strategy that you're using for B2C? You would? Okay, how would you handle it, Vanessa?
Well, in all aspects, you want just like the people on your tweets, like or like the followers, to be the people that you want to focus on.
Yeah.
But like even the like business to business, you want to grow.
Yeah.
So you need to like at least follow the businesses you want to connect with as
Yeah.
well, and like try and get them to like follow you back.
Okay, so
That way as well.
absolutely. Okay, so I didn't know where you were going at first, but I picked up. Okay, so when you're doing a following campaign, I was talking about tweets, but then you kind of went over to the different direction. But absolutely, because one of the things that one of my clients said was, I want to grow my network. What do I do? Well, you engage in the people that might be partners with you, like suppliers, and you engage in people that are suppliers that, you know, they really can't help you, but certainly their networks can, because those who are following that company will ultimately buy your product. Did I kind of encapsulate what you were talking about? Okay, perfect, good. And Nick, you had a question?
Would Twitter be a good place for B2C or B2B?
B2B would be an excellent spot for Twitter. Because if you think about most of the posts, like they're short. The nice thing is that, now does anyone know why it started out as only 140 characters? That's an awful short post. No? All right. At this point, you guys are guessing. At 140 characters, back in the day with T9, now have you heard T9 keyboards? Oh, okay. So back in the day, cell phones had, when they first came out with texting, it was what was called T9 keyboards. So if you see the 3 letters over your phone or your number, so say for example for 2, it's ABC. So if you wanted to send the word cab, you'd have to go 1, 2, 3, and then 1, and then 1, 2. And so
Our generation lived in a dark age.
no, my generation lived in a dark age, because I'll tell you, this is what we did during the day. We got up, and in the summertime, we got up, we had our breakfast, we went outside, and on our way out, we heard our parents say, don't come home until the streetlights are on. And then we come home once the streetlights are on, and that was dinner. We didn't have internet, and now I'm sounding like Kid Rock song. We didn't have no internet, but man, I never will forget. Anyhow, I digress. So yes, it was kind of a coming of age, we'll call it, because the dark age was the 80s. The coming of age was the 90s, early 2000s, and then the enlightened age.
Yeah, I just don't understand how people were able to text like that.
Okay, interesting. Okay, you're right, but then I don't understand how people can possibly write an essay on their phone.
I actually can't.
I watched my stepdaughter do it. She's going, I'm going, what are you doing? Oh, I'm writing an essay. And I'm like, on your phone? And meanwhile, I'm going, hi. How are, delete, and I hate Siri, because Siri has now got to the point, or at least the predictive text, where it doesn't understand anything I'm saying. Okay, so we really digress. Yes?
You can turn off the predictive.
I wouldn't want to do that with my typing skills, because I would rather have to retype the word.
Kind of like a double-edged
It is. Yeah, because people will look and they'll go, what is Keith saying? I think he's lost his mind. Or, what is Keith saying? I think he's lost his mind. Either way, I lose. So, okay. So B2B, would we change our strategy in where we send out our tweets?
Don't do it the weekend.
Don't do it on the weekend.
Because it's going to be closed, the company.
Okay, so Louis thinks don't do it on the weekend. Anybody else have an opinion? Vanessa?
Depending on what the company's hours are, you can definitely do it on the weekend if they're like open.
Don't forget B2B though.
Yeah, but some companies are open.
Okay, so mirror their hours.
Yeah.
Okay. So Vanessa says mirror their hours. Anyone else have a dissenting opinion? Here's how I would do it if I were a marketer. B2B, I know that people typically retweet during 10 to 11 p.m. I know that all the tweets are coming in between 9 and 6, 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. I know that if I send the tweet out at even if it's a B2B, between 10 and 11 and on the weekends, I know that I'm standing out from the crowd. So what I would do is the opposite strategy. Everyone's opinion is very valid. It's just my personal opinion would be I'd buck the system. I'd say, okay, you know what? I'd go Saturday to Sunday because there's fewer tweets out there to compete with. And who uses Twitter? People. And guess what? Most people have a job. And if they're on your Twitter account, those people are on Twitter during the off-peak periods. So you're going to stand out. And because during this time, your Twitter is blowing up with all sorts of different tweets. And I would post between 10 and 11 when the retweets are at its highest. That's how I would handle the strategy. Okay, content marketing, otherwise known as blogging. All right, so days that most brands blog are Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 18% of them. Thursday, 17.9. Wow, that's really close. Monday, 17.2. Fridays, 15.9. Sundays, the weekends, they take a bit of a break. And most brands publish blogs during the week, 87% during the week. Now, one thing going back to this is that if they're writing the blogs during the weekends, is it valuable to the organization if they were to put it out on the weekends without knowing the times or the reposts or anything else? Or would it make sense to just keep it during the week?
People are at home in the weekend, so it's a good opportunity.
Okay, so now Louis jumped over to the different side of the ship that says that they're at home. It's a good opportunity. Yeah.
If most brands are posting on the weekday, then that means less competition on the weekend.
Absolutely. So now you're a big fish in a little pond. All right. Anyone else have an opinion? Okay. So going over to the times that they blog. Again, no surprises. 9 till 6. Because if they're organizations and they're posting Monday to Friday, they're just going to be doing it during working hours. So the blogs are more effective on the weekends because the big fish little pond syndrome. And if you look, you've got fewer blogs being posted, but the light blue are your social shares. So if you're sending out a blog, the likelihood of a social share is a lot greater than during the week when you're competing with all of this noise. And if you look, every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, what's the pattern that we're seeing during the week versus the weekend?
One.
Work? Okay, so during the work week, yeah. But what's the pattern we're seeing on this chart?
More postings and less shows, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got more postings, less shares. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But all of a sudden on the weekend, it switches around. Why not be that big fish in a little pond and have the likelihood of your blogs coming out and being reshared? Okay, so most effective times to publish blogs. Anyone want to take a guess? Weekends? Time? Jessica just pointed out time.
Right.
Anybody want to guess a time? Or just want me to just push the button? Yep.
12
12 p.m. to 1?
9 to 11.
9 to 11. Okay, so we've got 9 to 11, 12 to 1.
For like Saturdays.
Saturdays, Sundays, early. You're doing evenings. Okay, so we're all around the clock. Let's see. The only ones that people didn't pick were overnight. Why wouldn't we post overnight?
We're asleep.
Yeah. Chances are the only ones that are, okay, and now I'm going to sound really, I'm going to hypothesize greatly on this, but the people that are typically on social media between 1 and 5 or 1 and 6 are those who are working overnight. And chances are, if you're a B2B organization, that's probably not your target audience. However, if your target audience is the night shift, it's wide open because these people are posting and they're looking and everything else. So let's see. So the most effective time, who said 10 to 11?
I said
You-
9 to 11
You said 9 to 11?
for weekends.
Weekends, okay. So this is, did you say 10 to 11? Evenings, okay. So it is actually evenings. You had a lot bigger of a window to be right. But yes, absolutely. So the most effective time is between 10 and 11 p.m. because they're posted between then. They see the most interactions. And here's something interesting though: the secondary peaks between 4 and 6 p.m. And then you've got 7 to 8 p.m. and 1 to 2 a.m. Interesting, 1 to 2 a.m.
I think that would depend on like the marketer maybe,
Okay.
like your target market.
All right. So yeah.
I would say 1 to 2 because I know that now that I'm getting older, I definitely wake up a lot more.
Okay.
During the night instead of just like sleeping.
Okay. So you can't sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Bar crowd. There's another one. 1 to 2. Now I don't know if you really want people retweeting. I love this place, but it's an opportunity. So these are those are your off-peak times. So really, what we're seeing, if you look at the window, 4 to 6, then 7 to 8 p.m., then 10 to 11, and 12 till 1. What did we miss completely for the most effective time? The morning or the workday. Because there's nothing, there's between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., they're saying that's the most ineffective time to post.
But when you talk about blogs, are you assuming that you receive a notification on your email address? Because I don't go myself. I'm gonna read the blog on this website, unless you do a search.
You'd be surprised because if you're a company, okay, so say for example, you decide that you wanted to play the stock market and you want to keep track of some of your stocks that you hold. What are you going to do? At lunchtime, you're going to go, I'm going to just check out and see what AT&T is doing. So there are periods. And the other thing is purchasers want to find out what's new in the industry. So they're going to check out blogs. So it depends on who your
But
audience
do you
is.
think they do a Google search or they type the URL?
They would go, typically it's a direct link. They would go right to your URL. Or they'd be part of an RSS feed. Do we remember what RSS stands for?
The latest.
Real simple syndication. So they might subscribe to your RSS feed. Okay? Facebook. Now, okay, so here's an interesting question. You guys feel that Facebook is to your generation out now? It's over? Yeah? I'm going to guess it's Snapchat and Instagram. Yeah, okay.
No, I don't understand
old.
Snapchat.
Okay. That's a fair assessment because I don't either. So, but I'm old. So I still every once in a while go on Facebook and go, yeah, okay. But this is the interesting thing though, is that especially when you're a marketer, you've got to understand the way your consumers think. So if I'm marketing a product that's targeting the millennials, and I have a choice of spending my advertising dollars on Snapchat, Instagram, or Facebook, the most opportune platform would be, of course, the Snapchat or Instagram, just based on this informal survey. So the other interesting thing, you guys all said as well that Facebook's out. It's over. No, you still use Facebook?
Yep.
Okay. You don't? Okay.
I do.
You do? Okay. So raise hands if you think that social media is or Facebook's over.
I think
On its way out.
It's on its way out.
it's going.
Okay. For your generation, it's already out. So because I'm trying to find out an interesting. Again, I'm all about an analysis. So raise your hand if you think it's out for your generation. Okay, interesting. Okay, because earlier there was all sorts of people that said, yeah, it's out, it's out, it's out. Now there's only 2 of you. Okay,
I don't think something's out just because something else is a little more popular now.
okay,
Personally, for me, it was out when like parents started using Facebook.
and,
I'm
okay.
not gonna lie. Like I go on it, but like not.
That's a very, very, so the trick is then the parents have to hit Snapchat and Instagram and
My
then,
mom has a Twitter, but I blocked her on that.
okay,
Just because I know she'll try to like chime in and be like, "Why are you posting this?" Like I just know my mom. Okay.
okay, now that's
So,
it, but your observation is a very fair statement, because if you ask most millennials why Facebook is out, that's the exact reason that Facebook's out, because it was over the moment my parents started using it.
If I blocked my mom, she'd probably cry.
No, I'm just like,
My son, when he was younger and Facebook was a little bit more popular with his generation, he's a millennial as well. He couldn't understand why I knew where all the parties were. He couldn't understand why I knew where he was at all times. He posted all the time on Facebook. I just logged in and had a look. So yes, that's how the millennials are starting to fade away, because they want the autonomy. So now they're coming up with the Snapchat. And it's interesting because Snapchat is a little bit more instant gratification. It's, well, okay, and forgive me, because I don't have a Snapchat account, but it's like 30 seconds and then the picture's deleted.
yeah.
10 seconds.
It's not even content.
Isn't it?
It's not content if it gets deleted instantly.
Okay,
That's
Vanessa?
not my
So why
opinion.
it's so popular then?
Well, we'll explore that. Vanessa?
Snapchat came out with, like, if you're actually talking on Snapchat, the conversation you have will stay for 24 hours, because when it first came out, it didn't stay for that long. Or like you save it and then it stays, or you just don't get out of that conversation,
Okay.
or it's gone.
All right, so
Don't
I received this-
remember what you
I
said.
received this picture.
The picture. Okay, so
Well-
there's 2 different pictures.
Okay.
The picture that lasts like 10 seconds.
Yeah,
That'll go away unless you save it or screenshot it.
okay.
But then you have like the chat part.
Okay, so then, so you do have a conversational aspect to it. But, okay, so here's the next question then. If I don't open up that picture, so say, for example, my phone is just sitting face down, and once it's gone, or is it once I've seen it, it's 10? Okay, so interesting. So maybe that's why. You get 10 seconds and it's been and gone. So you better make sure the picture counts.
I think the appeal of Snapchat is to feel like that you're actually there with the person.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're like leaving a message.
Okay. That's interesting, because
And you can even save it.
Because in my generation, we lived and died by the voicemail. If we missed a call, we better hope that voicemail picked up, because gosh darn, we didn't want to miss that call. But now you're saying that if you miss the message, you miss the message. No big
No,
deal.
you can even save it.
You can save it.
Yeah.
They also brought a feature in, like, if you miss it, you could like redo it, or
Oh,
so
okay.
it's like kind of like 10 seconds, but like if you can't read it fast enough, and then like it goes away, you get like one redo
Okay.
of a
Interesting.
Snapchat.
So if I'm Snapchat, why would I want to do it so that after 24 hours everything deletes? From a logistics standpoint, why would I want to do that? Isn't that kind of counterintuitive to the way everyone else has done it?
So let's get boring after 24 hours. Like, look at the same picture.
Okay, so the repetition. Okay.
More exciting.
More exciting.
Yeah, for adventures or something.
Okay, Jessica.
I guess for like our generation, we get like, I don't know what it's called, like, I guess like our patience or something like that.
It's immediate
Yeah, like,
gratification.
we just want to see it once and then
Okay.
we're good.
Okay, so your attention span.
That's
Okay.
what it's like.
If it
Nick.
gets deleted, it can't be used against you unless someone saved it.
Interesting. Okay, you all laugh,
The way you worded that though.
but it's kind of diabolical, but it's interesting. Because if you think about it, what that guy from Toronto Hydro that was at the FC game, didn't he wish that after 10 seconds it was gone? Because it cost him his job, because he was at a Toronto FC game and there was a female reporter and he was being belligerent to the female reporter, and it went right across social media and eventually got back to his boss and he got fired. So, sure.
And a marketer might like that feature too, because they're afraid of like negative reputation.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, from my standpoint, from a technical perspective, it's also saving Snapchat money, because I'm not having to pay for the massive servers to house all of your old pictures. Only 24 hours and I can wipe it. So anyhow, Facebook. All right, so Facebook interactions skyrocket on the weekends. Why do they skyrocket on the weekends?
So people have more time to spend their time.
More people? Okay, so which people?
So more other business other than the business who are free from their daily routine.
Okay, so is it millennials?
Yeah.
Okay, can be, but based on what I'm hearing, the millennials are leaning more towards new technology. So this is a target audience of Generation X, baby boomers, and believe it or not, and I don't remember what it's called, the previous to baby boomers.
Silent generation.
Silent generation. Even they're getting into it.
How
And-
old are these people? Very old, right?
Well, I know my mother is.
They still are.
Well, actually, believe it or not, my mother used to text me every day trying to solve problems with her phone. She couldn't figure it out. And now it's to the point where she can maneuver through her iPad. She's got an iPad, a laptop, and an iPhone. And she just navigates it like you or I. So you're even appealing to that audience, but it's the older audience. It's not the millennials that you guys are all Snapchatting over. So it skyrockets on the weekends. Most people do post during the week, but the posts do increase over the weekend. Oh, most effective time to post. It's all over the place. But again, if you look between 8, but this is kind of an odd shift, between 8 and 8 now for Facebook. Is the most effective time to post. But here's the other, well, okay, this is where the most posts happen, but let's have a look at the line where the average interactions happen. During the workday, there's more posts than interactions. And it looks like about 5:30, it evens out. But then after that, the posts start dropping down and the interactions start going up. So as a marketer, would you, and it's a B2C product, would you rather do it during the day or say, for example, in the evening, late evening? Personally, I would do evening, late evening, because I don't want to compete with everybody's noise. So if I do it and people are seeing it firsthand, and that's when the interactions are happening. Okay, so peak interactions. So I'm going to offer a little advice, and the reason I'm going through the break is because I'm going to be giving you guys about an hour to work on your major assignment as well as talk about your social media. So this will give you a chance to do some of your assignments. I'm going to recommend that you look at this chart and kind of memorize it. It might be beneficial to you at some point in the near future or in the distant future if it sticks with you. All right, it's a valuable slide, and it will be available in the lobby or on Blackboard. You don't have to take pictures. You can. Okay. All right. So this is an important slide to remember. Okay. Any questions about what we've gone over?
Question.
Yes.
Instagram, you can post videos on Instagram or not?
Yep.
Yes.
They're short videos, but
So interesting.
just
So
like a Snapchat.
So it's like Snapchat. So if I'm a marketer, why the heck would I want to do that though? Why would I want to go to Snapchat, get a professional picture taken, do these things, and then send it out and 10 seconds later it's gone if somebody's seen it? Why would I want that? Yep.
There's a feature in the Snapchat that shows the famous people and brands on the area.
Okay.
And it randomly pops up their posts and stuff.
Okay.
So Snapchat was a way if depending on the Snapchat, it will automatically show on the post.
So it shows who's famous in your area.
Who's famous in the area.
Neat. Now, okay, so I'm looking to you guys because you're all Snapchat users. If I were a marketer and I were to send the picture of this out with something funny that goes on, like, you know, the slide where I pushed it and it showed the wrong word, it should have been something different, and I sent that out, but I sent it out repeatedly. How would you guys take that if I sent it out like every hour? Would millennials get frustrated?
Yeah.
And you'd probably delete me from your network? So what you need to do now, the onus on the marketer, the social media marketer, when it comes to Snapchat and Instagram, is you've got to tell the best possible story right the first time, and you've got a 10-second window to do it. Now, if it's good enough that people will either share or people, now, can you share on Snapchat?
Yeah, you kind of forward the video.
You can forward. Okay, so that's sharing then. So if it's good enough, people will share or save, and you might find it on a Reddit post or whatever. But these are the types of things, though, that you should start considering as well. So if you're okay, so short of Brista, we'll call it, short of Brista, you guys are doing basically personal websites, right? And that are resume or whatever. Would Snapchat be a good platform to use? No? Who said no? Why not?
Because it's more kind of a popular application instead of somewhere where you can put your professional profile or something. You cannot put too much information in it.
Okay.
And information will get related before it reaches to someone.
Okay, interesting. But now I'm going to throw another twist at you because there's some of you that are going through for the culinary school, which I think is very pop culture.
Yeah.
So would it make sense then?
Yes.
Okay.
Sharing of new dishes or something experience.
Okay.
They let the other person know what they are making and what they are trying to do with their dishes. Yeah.
Okay. But now, one thing that you've got to take into, now I'm of two minds. So Vanessa, I'm sitting right on the fence with this one. So just so you know, on one side, I think that it's very important to use Snapchat. But by the same token, are your decision makers on Snapchat? Who are the typical, what is the typical demographic of a restaurant owner? Are they millennials or are they Gen X's? So you got to take that into consideration as well. But yeah, so that's my one side where I'm going, well, yeah, okay, it's probably not a good idea. But on the other side, absolutely. You're getting the quick messages out. And the cool thing is that you're generating buzz, word of mouth advertising. So that dish that you talked about in your blog, you put that picture out there and all of a sudden your network was, oh, that looks so good. Now people are starting to talk about that dish. And that's really beneficial. But this like the strategies that we just talked about may not be the best possible ones because the bar and restaurant industries are grossly different than most B2B or B2C organizations. Okay, so know your audience, make sure that you play to it. So there you go. So that's the slide deck portion of it. What I'm going to do is, like I said, I want to give you guys a chance to work on your assignments, ask questions about the social media assignment, or if you need help with your website, let me know and I can kind of coach you that way. Just remember there's one of me, so I'll kind of circulate as much as possible. Are there any questions on what we've talked about today? No? Okay, so if you want to stick around, I am here. And if you want to go do another assignment, because Hell Week is coming soon, feel free.
When is the reading week coming?
Reading week is 2 weeks from now.